Welcome everyone to another edition of our Readers Assembly Author Spotlight. I'm your host and I'm delighted to be here tonight. So, thank you all for taking the time to join us. Whether you are a teacher, student, parent, author, or simply someone who enjoys reading, we are happy to have you here. At Readers Assembly, we believe books can change lives. Every book teaches us something new. Every author has a story worth hearing. That's why our Author Spotlight series give readers the chance to meet the people behind the books and learn more about their journey. Today, we are honored to welcome Dr. PALTO DATTA, author of Character, the End Goal of Education. This book asks a very important question. What is the real purpose of education? Most people think education is about getting good grades, earning a degree, or finding a good job. But Dr. Dada reminds us that education should also help us become honest, kind, responsible, and compassionate people. His book encourages us to look beyond the success and focus on building strong character. Dr. Dada, welcome to Readers Assembly. We are grateful to have you with us today. Please unmute your mic so we can hear you.
Good evening.
All right. So before we begin, let me give you a brief introduction of our today's guest. Dr. Patrick Datter is an educator, researcher, and author with a passion for education, ethics, leadership, and personal development. Through his work, he encourages people to think deeply about learning, not only gaining knowledge, but also developing values that help build better families, stronger communities, and better society. We're excited to hear more about his journey and the inspiration behind his work, his wonderful work. So let's take a moment to introduce today's feature book. Character, the End Goal of Education reminds us that education is about much more than exams and certificates. The book reminds that knowledge is important, but knowledge without good character cannot build a better world. Without the book, Dr. Dada talks about values such as honesty, respect, kindness, responsibility, discipline, and integrity. One chapter that really stands out is about teachers. It describes teachers as people who help shape future generations. Every doctor, engineer, scientist, entrepreneur, or leaders once had a teacher who believed in them. The book also talks about sustainable development, encouraging schools to teach students how to care for their communities and the environment. Another interesting chapter explores happiness instead of chasing temporal pleasure, and the book encourages readers to find lasting happiness through meaningful relationships, purpose, good values, and serving others. Overall, this book reminds us that education should not only prepare us for work, it should prepare us for life. It's thoughtful, inspiring, and filled with lessons that readers all ages can appreciate. Dr. Dara, thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, I would like to ask a few questions about your book. What inspired you to write Character, the End Goal of Education, and why did you feel this message was important to share?
Thank you. You know that you have introduced me very nicely. Teaching is my profession, you can say. For nearly 3 decades, I have had the privilege of teaching students from many parts of the world with different backgrounds, different cultures, different understanding, different beliefs. And these 30 years, this is a great journey, you can say, and I discovered something that deeply concerned me. We are producing graduates who are highly qualified, technologically skilled, having multi-skills, professionally competent, there is no questions. Yet, I found many parts of the world Many graduates struggle with compassion, integrity, morality, resilience, good values, and the moral courage. For me, education is something different. Education from my childhood, I happen to believe, is the backbone of a nation, of a society. Progress and prosperity always comes through the good education system, good research system, and also the managerial skills. So education nowadays has become exceptionally successful over the past many years, so many decades, as we all are preparing for careers, but not always for life. So the concept of character, I'm always asking and asking, also asking to my students, what is the purpose of a good education system? And that is very simple yet powerful questions. What is the true purpose of education? I always happen to believe the ultimate goal of education is not merely employment, not having a materialistic success or job success or economic success, or maybe the academic excellence. The highest purpose of the good education system to build, to nurture a moral character. The knowledge and understanding in today's 21st century is most important to build a career, but character builds a meaningful life. And this is happening nowadays, that we can see that the huge pace of globalization, technological advancement, the renaissance, the society is evolving, the people are learning AI, metaverse, many things is happening, the internet, but the society is still becoming much corrosive. If you look at the economic sphere, the political sphere, social sphere, the big organizations, sometimes you are wondering why they are collapsing while the top executives are from the top universities. So means today's education system, we are teaching how they can become financially successful, but we are not teaching actually how they can become morally successful. So end goal of education, which I termed as character, means I'm talking about the character building. So through this book, I
Thank you
invite
so much
educators,
for sharing.
parents, and everyone to rethink the current purpose of education, not simply as a process of transferring knowledge. For me, teaching is not a job. Teaching is a sacred duty, a spiritual duty. So you are nurturing students, you are nurturing the nations, you are nurturing the young people, igniting young people's mind so that they can do something, they can think beyond their thinking. That is the purpose, that of this book, and why I thought that what is happening in education system nowadays worldwide, it is not right. It has to revisit. We must rethink and see how we can restructure the whole education system so that we are not only bringing the competent professionals, but same time also ethical professionals. I hope I have answered your questions.
Thank you so much for sharing such great insight with us today. So, one of my favorite chapters is about teachers. Why did you choose to highlight their role, and how did you think society can better appreciate educators?
Very nice. In my childhood, I actually born and brought up in a different culture, different society. Society is not well progressed, not developed. And I actually grown up in a small village, very small village. Then moved to the urban areas. And then from that small village, one day I moved to different country with a different culture, different background, different understanding. And I have witnessed the many things since 1990s, the ups and downs of the society, economic spheres, political spheres, the polarizations, democracy, freedom and speech. And I always happen to believe from my childhood that an educator is the most powerful individual who can change the world, who can nurture the young minds, to change for the betterment of the society. As I stated, that for me, education is not mere a job. It is a special duty, a noble duty, because an educator can uplift the many young minds. That it reminds me a great the philosophical insights from Plutarch, if I don't do mistakes. I think it's a Plutarch who said long time back, is a very ancient philosophical thought. The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. For me, education is not going to the classroom and start teaching and pouring knowledge onto the student's brain. For me, is to ignite something so that these young people can think differently, they can be empowered, they will have the freedom. And I have seen the many quiet students when they have spoken up one day and bringing their own thoughts and ideas. So if you look at throughout the history, if I just go back to the ancient, the history from the Greek philosophical doctrine and until today, that if you look at since 1990s, what we have seen, the development of globalization, development of internet, technological advancement, nowadays AI, and so on. So teachers has a great role. Teachers are continuously evolving and learning something new. I just wrote an article when teachers become students and they are learning from students and students become an academic. So teachers do far more than teaching subjects. They cultivate curiosity. They actually bring the conscience within the students, inspire dream, and help students to have the aspirations, and also help discover the best versions of themselves. Many of today's young children, they're obsessed with social media, mobiles, internet. They spend huge amount of time. I'm asking always questions to my students. How many of the students nowadays read books, printed books, e-books, online books? You hardly hear from them. They're honest. And they always say that they don't have time to read books while they're spending huge amount of time on social media and the other gadgets, that what we have. So if you look at the society, the great scientists, great judges, great entrepreneurs, artists, and so on, they become leader, but once they're shaped, they're nurtured, they're empowered by a great teacher. So I feel that a teacher for today's society, a teachers can do many things. But if you look at the success of today's classroom, today's academia is always measured by grading, the ranking, and I'm thinking that all over the world, the best education system, the best universities, we are talking about the QS ranking, that and so on. But a nation that respects its teachers, invest in its future, the nation can sustain, the nation can prosper. So therefore, I feel that a teacher has a great role to ignite, to motivate, to nurture young people, not only to educate them on their subject, but help them to think ethical manner, morally, and focus on good values, such as that respecting others, that maybe the punctuality, the values, appreciations, and so on. And when they actually work within the organizations, to think what is the best way organization can sustain. Now I see that many organizations, there's a political tensions, the corruptions, and so on. So I strongly believe for educator, it not only to nurture or empower the students, but empower to nurture character alongside a great knowledge. They create citizens who possesses wisdom, empathy, integrity, and social responsibility. Now, education changes lives. That is, we understand. But a teachers change the society, teachers change history. So therefore, teachers are the backbone to ignite something. Traditional education system is totally one-sided. Why? You go to the best universities around the world, they will teach you one thing, how you can become competent, how you can become genius, and how you can become the best person, top leaders to get the best job. But do they teach how you can become a great human with great character and morality? If so, we could not have so much problem.
Thank you for sharing such fascinating view of educators. And your book also mentioned great thinkers like Aristotle, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and the likes. How do these people influence your thinking while writing this book?
You know, it's quite very interesting. Nowadays, like when I teach at the university, I teach master students. They're from different background. None of the university in the UK, I'm sure that this is the same case around the world. They teach the subjects, but they don't teach the background to have the better understanding. When I was university students, we had the two common subjects, irrespective you are studying physics, chemistry, social science, natural science, whatever it is. You have to study philosophy and you must study history. I feel that philosophy and history most important for people to understand the various school of thoughts and also to understand the context of anything that is missing. And I had that privilege as an opportunity to understand the ancient philosophy, the Chinese philosophy, Indian philosophy, because the 6 years of my university life, that was the discussions. And until the modern philosophical thought, if you look at the ancient Greek philosophy from Socrates, Aristotle, Pythagoras, even the Plato's, the great book, The Republics, they talked all about the morality. They talked about the virtues. Now, if I look at that the Aristotle, who taught us that education should ultimately help human beings flourish. Flourish by what? By developing virtue. I think that word even that many times epitomized within the philosophical school of thought, sorry, the religious school of thought, such as Christianity. So virtue and practical wisdom, not merely acquiring knowledge. That was the, the key understanding when the Aristotle talked about the education. Now, if you look at the ahimsa, the political doctrine by Mahatma Gandhi, and he was one of the proponents to have the moral values, moral education systems, because he reminded us that education without moral values becomes dangerous. Don't we see the dangerous situation now around the world? Is there any nations, any society you think are living in peaceful and happily? He believed that true education system develops both the head and the heart. And I remember that, one of the greatest philosophers, René Descartes, who said dualism, body and minds. And Indian philosophy, they talk about the body, minds, and soul. When the body, minds, and soul living in harmony, then a person can live in most peaceful and happiest way. So I'm always asking to my students, what two things we are looking in this world? The happiness and the success. But question is how we measure the success. Look at that great, the writer. I must say that a great philosopher, scientist, and philanthropist, the Tagore. He was the great inspiration for the society, for all Indians and the beyond. He inspired me with his vision of holistic education system. He challenged the rote learning system those days I'm talking about, that nearly 80 years back in Indian education system. So he wanted to see that education system should be free, a free thinking. So he wanted to see that in education system that people learn to become creative, obsessed with the nature, culture, science, freedom of thoughts, and all this should be living side by side in harmony. His education philosophy remains one of the humanity's greatest gift. Now then we can go back again, I'm always teaching, telling my students to become happiest person in this world. Remember Leo Tolstoy's three questions. Because these three questions greatly inspired to Tagore, to Mahatma Gandhi, to Nelson Mandela. I always remember the Nelson Mandela, his 27 years in jail life. He was greatly inspired by Tolstoy. So what he said about education, I think one of the most powerful things he always used to say that education is the most powerful weapon to change the world. I always agreed with this. I fully agree. But education, if you look at that, education can change the world only when it first change human character. Because we have seen that many highly educated individuals also still corrupting politics. Because I feel that today's 21st century education system becoming most corrosive education system. That we are talking about the happiness. One of the great ancient philosopher, Epicurus, and he talked about eudaimonic happiness. Eudaimonic happiness, because Epicurus challenged our modern understanding of happiness. He taught that lasting happiness comes not from possession or status, not because of your wealth, but from inner peace, friendship, simplicity, and wisdom. I feel so sad when I see that nowadays academics with huge credentials but lack of wisdom, that is danger for any society, because we don't look back our great thinkers. We just focus on what is happening now and follow the flow without understanding whether it is impacting our life, sensible way, reasonable way, ethical way. If we could become most ethical individual, we could do much. So this is why I feel that even that when I was child, 11 years old, that time actually I read Leo Tolstoy and some of the philosophers from Western world, and they helped me to think differently, asking questions. And I think the great thinkers always igniting, always helping, inspiring, and nurturing a great society. So this is why I always remember anywhere I go back and look at what they said and how their words can inspire even today. And it has the huge relevance and implication for the whole society. I hope I have given the answer to some extent.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And you also discuss education and sustainable development. What particular step can students take, or can schools rather take, to prepare students to become responsible citizens?
That you just asked something quite interesting. The many greatest the thoughts, the ideas, the concept we have seen for the over the last few decades. No, I must say that the one or the 2 centuries, but last 3, 4 decades, we have seen the number of new concepts. Now, once the United Nations that brought the concept of sustainability in different areas, over the last 5, 6 years, I have seen that many universities, that they're bringing the concept of sustainability. There's just so many conferences, the symposiums and workshops is happening on sustainability, but we failed sometimes to bring the sustainability concept within the the educational curricula. The concept of sustainability is very new to many African countries. Even I remember that few years back when I went to my home country, that Bangladesh, and some of those countries, the concept is totally new. There are many people don't understand what does it mean, what is the implication for the educators, for the policymakers, for the institutions, for the governments, and so on. But that I can't believe it. A 11 years girl, she taught me the concept of sustainability. And I was talking one day in my class to my student, and suddenly next week she came. She said that I was reading sustainability, some of the articles on my child, 11 years. She told me, I know the concept of sustainability, how we can use the classroom, the lighting, and not printing the papers and so on, how we can actually protect the planet, protect the environment. I was really astonished. Many parts of the world, the people don't understand the concept. So for me, that as an educator, sustainable development is about making choices that care for both today and tomorrow. Are we thinking about the next generation? So it is asking a very important question to me that are we acting, whatever we do, a responsible manner so that next generations, our children, can also thrive? This is where character education comes in, because the values like responsibility, fairness, foresight guide people who act different way, ethical way. All these can be part of our today's education system. How to protect our environment, how to protect our planet. So sustainability is not always the protecting forest or reducing carbon emissions or protecting that there should not be flood. I know that many countries using that. It is about creating responsible human being who understand that every decision affects our future generation. I think educational institution has unique responsibility to integrate sustainability into everyday learning. Even the media can play a prime role to promote the concept of sustainability, because the people nowadays, I don't know whether the people nowadays watching too much the news or the electronics media. It seems there is always a negative, but students should experience sustainability through practical actions, means how we can reduce the waste, protecting biodiversity, or when we are talking about serving their communities and understanding global citizenships. So first thing, the educators need to have the better understanding how we can actually connect with the students, what types of information we can disseminate among the students to have the better understanding about the sustainability and its implications. Institutions should bring or revisit their curricula to bring the concept of sustainability to protect even the sustainability, that we are talking about the profit. Yes, how we can make the profit? Which way? Like my institution now in the UK, we are not printing anything. So it becomes sustainable. And that is, that I can't believe it. That 20 years back, any class materials we are printing, giving to the students, now everything is digital. So, these are the things, even, the people are walking on the street, how they can behave to protect the environment. So all these systematically, we need to identify the areas of sustainability and what to be included as part of the curricula. So this is very important. So character education, again, is becoming the prime to promote the sustainability, because character education is always focusing on moral education, responsible education system, the way that people can behave most ethical manner. So ethical manner in all aspect, what we are consuming, what we are buying, how we disseminate ideas, how we are interacting with the people, with the society, and even in all aspect, in political sphere to economic sphere to, that anything you say, everywhere we can apply the concept of sustainability. But whatever you do, I think that no one is talking about the character elements, the morality. We are using AI, that being the editor-in-chief for couple of journals, we can see that how people are behaving, even that the students nowadays, they're depending on AI to producing their, the essays, the reports, the assignments, even the dissertations. So my question is, can we stop not to use the AI? But we can do one thing. We cannot stop that. What we can do, we can teach our students, our children, how they can use most ethical way, responsible way, so that they learn, they do some things, they impact, they challenge, and they pick up the best choices, and their activities will impact to the society. And I'm just asking one question, that as a human, as a product of the society, we are always taking many things from the society, but I think the character education will help to each and every one to give back something to the society. This is where character education is imperative.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dara, for those thoughtful answers. Your book reminds us that true education is about becoming better people, not just more educated people. So now we'd love to hear from our audience. If you have some questions for Dr. Dara, please drop it in the chat and we'll attend to a few of it later. So while you're dropping the question, looking back, how has writing this book changed you personally? And what is the one message you hope readers will remember long after finishing the book?
It is a great journey. That my writing habit started 1978 is a long way. So I used to write actually poetry. I used to write short stories. I think one of the greatest, the Western economists, that Nelson Winter and Sidney Winter, both of them got, I think they're from one of the greatest university in USA, who got the Nobel Prize the late 90s. And they actually focused on institutional economics. Only the two concepts, that these two concepts has huge impact on me. One is the habit, one is the routine. Routine. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing the right way. I think that individual can change the many things in life by changing a small habit. And that habit also is very important in social progress, political progress, in all aspects of life. So this writing is becoming for me like as a spiritual journey. So many people are asking, where you get the time to write, that always, because I spend every day something, like the way I eat every day, I sleep every day, I write every day. So writing this book became a great journey of self-reflection as much as academic writing. That you always think about others, you always reflect on many objects and many subjects, but we don't actually reflect on us to understand ourselves. So if we don't understand ourselves much better way, it is a bit difficult to understand others. So if you look at this book, the character angle of education is the compilation of a number of articles, and those articles are published in daily newspapers. And some of those articles actually published in USA. So those articles I've been writing for the last 8 or 9 years, since 2017. So every chapter, if you look at it, actually challenged me to understand, to examine my own beliefs, my own understanding, values, and also responsibilities as an educator. I realized that the teaching is not simply about delivering, lectures or reading. I can see many academics nowadays, without slides, they cannot teach. If there is a problem with the internet, the computers and so on, many academics becoming bit or panicking most of the times. In our time, it was blackboard and chalk, that in my childhood. Even when I finished my master's, I didn't understand about the internet, about emails, and so on. So this book helped me to strengthen my conviction that education should nurture wisdom alongside knowledge, compassion alongside competence, and of course, how I can say integrity alongside achievement. So achievement of an individual should not be measured based on economic success. And this is what is happening around the world. If there is one message I wish to pass to these generations or next generation, especially to my younger students, it is, I would like to say that our greatest success in life will never be measured by wealth we accumulate or the title we earn or the credential. I think that should be measured based on, of course, based on your knowledge and understanding, your geniusness, but most importantly, how moral you are. A top executive with the best education systems, with moral character, can bring the morality within the organizations, morality within the society, and that can change the whole nations. Therefore, the degrees may open doors, but character open hearts. Again, I would like to say that great Indian wisdom, body, mind, and soul. So body, it can be our education. It can be our knowledge. It can be our competencies. It can be our skills, the professionalism and so on, whether it is hard skills or soft skill. But your mind and soul, that is your values. That is your morality. That is your ethics. So again, I would like to say that knowledge may create professionals, but character creates a great leaders. And that great leaders can change the society. You know, when the people are saying the leadership style, I nowadays very scared to talk about the leadership style because I don't see many leaders nowadays with the great compassion, with the great morality. The one day maybe I see is the he or she is the great leaders, but next day or next week or next month there is a problems, and that is happening throughout the world. So if education, so what I can say, if education can produce people who are wise, who are courageous, ethical, then education will truly fulfill the highest purpose. And hence, character, this should be the end goal of education. Knowledge plus character. That should be the curricula for any educational institution, starting from primary, secondary, and higher education system. Because the future of humanity will not be conditioned by artificial intelligence alone. Even today, this morning, we had a discussion about artificial intelligence. We cannot avoid it because artificial AI can be our good assistant, but it can process something. But ultimate creativity, the knowledge and understanding, the way you are prompting to AI. So character is not an optional outcome of education. It is the ultimate destination. And that should be the case that I wanted to say.
That was such beautiful insight. Thank you so much. Please check the chat box for our audience questions.
Let me see. What inspired you to write this book? I think this is very nice. I mentioned that education for me is not a job. I've been teaching more than 29 years, 3 decades, and I have seen the great individual, great young people. So I don't teach them. Rather, the students are teaching me. Sometimes I go to the class with a great hope that today I'll have the great interaction with some of the quietest students and I'm learning. They're learning because I'm the only one person. My class 22 or 24, they cannot learn from one person too much. But through the interaction, discussion, and the various activities, we both are learning. The students are learning. One of the way I have seen many education institutions are not nowadays talking about character. Even some of the professors, they don't want to talk about the character. They feel education cannot be sold because the time the liberalization of private education systems, now think about USA, education system is too much costly. So when it is a huge investment, obviously that people would like to uh, get success, but success in economic terms, to get the best job with a high salary. But then, that the same people, if they are not morally fit, no organization can benefit and society cannot benefit. And you see that what is happening around the world nowadays. So I think that my students inspired me to look back why the character or ethical education or ethics should be. So this is someone said, now, sir, was there a teacher who inspired your writing? I think one of my great teacher is Tolstoy. Believe me, Leo Tolstoy, 1886. I would like to recommend you read. He's a father of short stories. You know that my whole life is inspired by him in terms of happiness. Anyone, I'm telling my student what two things we are looking for: happiness. And I can guarantee, I can prove, I can challenge to everyone, no one is happy. And that is the Beatles members. That George Harrison, he said before his death 6 months back, that I have everything, I have wealth to buy anything I want, but I don't have peace in my mind. And you know the story, later days. So I think that Tolstoy is my great teacher. His three questions, his three questions is the roadmap to happiness. So if anyone, please read that book. It will not take more, read that story. It will not take more than 15 minutes. Now, Josephine, you said that if every school could apply one lesson from your book, what should it be? What should it be? I think that, teach them one thing: become ethical. When they're writing about that, even today I told my student, did you write this assignment? Tell me, even you didn't write, don't lie. And some of my students says, no, sir, we didn't write it. Someone helped me. Be honest. I would like to see, tell you students, don't coerce them in the classroom. Treat them as your child. The children are most powerful and curious. Teach them how to become honest. Teach them how to do mistakes courageous way, because we don't want to see people are doing mistakes. We want to see they always pass. They have the great achievement. So this is one: be honest, be ethical, and be moral. Why do you believe character is the true goal of education? I think this is any parents or any older people, they don't want the children are becoming rotten. I don't think. The mothers are the great guru. That mothers doesn't need the top education. I'm talking about the institutional education. Mothers instinctively, they're the best educator. They understand their children's and how to nurture their children's. So this is, I'm saying, the core of the character is the morality, because you'd like to see our children that grow graciously with moral character. We don't want our children's lie, become dishonest, involved in corruptions, fraud, and so on. Is a decent person in society. Now, the concept of decent has the different meanings for different people. So for me, I think the characters, that nowadays we read stories, we listen stories, but in my childhood, we used to say parable. That stories have a great lesson about honesty, lesson about punctuality, lesson about the timing, lesson about the respect, lesson about the appreciation, and so on. So this is why I think the morality should be the now another. The Sarah, you said that chapter on happiness changed the way I think about success. I think that happiness I have given the reference to the three people, that one is that Tolstoy. I'm always saying that if anyone would like to become happier, focus on present. And I'm telling the students who is the best person to you, when is the best time for you, which job is the best. Now everyone will tell the different story, that but if we live at present time now, that if you ask me who is the best, what is the best time for me, I think that this is the best time for me, that I'm talking something, I'm interacting something, I'm actually saying something to all of you. Whether it is good or bad, you are going to judge. So every second we can make fruitful, productive, and happier. So Epicurus said, eudaimonic happiness means when the people becoming oblivious with something, especially you will see a mother is playing with the child, and if the mother really focus on the child will become the most happier, that he or she will forget everything and will enjoy the time and the laughing and smiling and jumping and thumping. You will see the moment. So what we are talking about, that the happiness we can make every moment. You can make that you can be happier if you think, even the time you have the stress, feel that stress, I have to address it best way, calm way. Why not we enjoy the time? When I go to class, I enjoy the most enjoyable time. When I walk on the street, that is the best time I'm actually enjoying. Looking at the peoples, their behavior, the sky, the trees, the birds are murmuring, and all these things. So the chapter of happiness gives you the three most important questions, the way people can become happier. Let's see whether there is any. This is a book every teachers, parents, students, and leaders should read. I made that comments. I think there is pledge, I had made to all the policymakers, all the educators, all the students, I did it as a form of letters. The world is 8.4 billions of people living in this world. We have seen 400 years back the European Renaissance. We have developed and progressed so much, but still you think that we are living in a VUCA world, the world that is most volatile, the world that is most uncertain, the world that is most ambiguous. When I watch news, I don't know who is telling the truth. In my childhood, the journalists, they used to find out the truth. Nowadays, you need to find out the truth, who is telling lie or who is saying the good things. Everything is becoming biased nowadays. No one is telling the truth. So I think people need to, that I think everyone understand that honesty has the greatest reward in this world. Although, if you are really honest, if you are morally best, you will be isolated. I think, one of the greatest writers, who is that? Who said that sufferings are the blessings? But if you are morally intellectual, you will be isolated. And that is happening. But still, there is a great reward being honest. And I feel that we can do much. I think that's all. I don't
I
see any
think,
other comments. Thank you.
yeah, that's all. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. The conversation has reminded us that education is not just about knowledge, it's about becoming people of honesty, kindness, wisdom, and integrity. Your book also encourages us to value teachers, care for our communities, and live lives guided by strong character. So, on behalf of everyone at Readers Assembly, we say thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. We absolutely love you. And to everyone who joined us today, thank you for being part of this wonderful conversation. If today's discussion inspired you, we encourage you to read Character, the End Goal of Education. We believe you would find valuable lessons that can be applied in everyday life. Thank you for your thoughtful questions, comments, and support. We look forward to seeing you at our next Readers Assembly Auto Spotlight. Until next time, keep reading, keep learning, keep growing. Have a nice time, everyone. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us once
Thank you.
again.
Good night. Good night.
Have a nice time. Bye.